Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and with me tonight, as always, we have Jason and Joe. Jason, it was a hell of a run for the Phillies, man. Sorry it didn't happen for you. I mean, I like I mentioned last week, I really didn't care who ended up winning Astros Phillies, but I'm sorry for your case that the Phillies didn't, fell a little short, but man, it was a great series to watch. How are you holding up after all that?
I'm doing fine. I was very surprised when I was seeing everything, and I think after the no hitter in Game 4, I kind of resigned myself to this is probably going to change things. They're not going to really win this. So after Game 6, I actually have not been bummed at all because, like you said, it was a hell of a ride. 7 games under 500 on June 3rd to playing in the World Series as National League champs. It was an incredible season, a phenomenal run, and really there's nothing to be bummed about because they weren't supposed to be there and they'd had a great series. They're the only team to actually beat the Astros in the postseason for a game or two. So, yeah, hard to be upset.
Absolutely. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Hanging in there, man. I mean, the Irish pulled off a dominating performance against Clemson the other day, and was certainly not anticipating that, but I'm very happy for that. I expect the Huddle Up boys to be pretty fired up about that tomorrow night.
If Jim's not amped up to like level 14, I will be shocked.
Yeah.
Especially with the Cowboys coming off of a bye, and aren't they rolling into a horrible Green Bay team that I hope loses 6 straight this week?
Yeah, they're going into Green Bay. Mike McCarthy's returned to Lambeau.
Yeah, Jim's going to be amped up. That'll be a fun time tomorrow night.
Sure will be. Yeah, that's a good thing for me. I'm also, like Jason, I'm pleased with how the Phillies performed, I think, overall in the World Series and getting there. And I've got the red and white stripes on, not only for that, but I've got the red and white stripes on because college basketball is back, baby.
Yes.
Go Hoosier. So I'm pretty amped up over here.
This is the first time that I can remember not seeing Coach K out there with Duke. That's going to be really weird this year.
Their first game of the post Coach K era is on tonight.
That just doesn't seem right at all. Yeah, wow. Talk about iconic. Although I will be happily watching Penn State hoops this year. My wife and I are going to be going down to Philly for the Penn State Purdue game. They'll be at the Palestra. So knock off another iconic college basketball stadium off the list. Or arena, excuse me, not stadium. So that'll be a lot of fun. Helps to be students and have access to those much, much cheaper tickets.
Yeah, Andrew, my dad and I went there for a game a few years back. It was we saw St. Joe's and Penn there.
Nice.
So seeing a Big 5 game was kind of fun.
I'm actually really jealous. That sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm on the Evan Williams and Mountain Dew, representing all my teams tonight with my Cubs glass. Hoping that brings some good luck to my GM who makes some good decisions here. So,
yeah, I mean, let's face it, it can't be more confusing than last season's. We're going to compete. What are we doing? So things can only go up from here. And let's face it, the Cubs played a hell of a second half. So hopefully they can use that momentum and build for next year too. Jason, what are you drinking tonight, bud?
So I was prepared to go out and buy some champagne to pop potentially tonight. That didn't end up working out. So in their honor, I have the official beer of the Phillies, the Yuengling Lager, with the old style P on the back. So cheers to a phenomenal season, a great postseason run, boys. So go with the Phillies Yuengling tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anybody who's a Phillies fan and is upset with this season, no, just stop. I know it didn't end how you guys wanted it to, but it was still one hell of a season. And tonight, guys, I am drinking from UFO Brewing, a brewing company I've never heard of, a triple berry. Brewed with raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries. Pretty tasty. I wish they'd make it into a tart, but it's a solid fruit ale. All right, so let's roll into the World Series. Jason, since the Phillies came in on fire in this extra innings game, why don't you talk about Game 1?
Yeah, I'll take the two games that I can to a phenomenal season. Somebody's got something going on there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Yeah, I can talk about Game 1 since it's one of two wins that I can enjoy from this series. So Game 1 was really one that I thought was going to set the tone for the World Series, and it did start by it was an entertaining World Series, no doubt. Phillies ended up winning this one 6-5 in 10 innings. They were down 5-0 at one point, and they came back. JT Realmuto had a game-tying double, and in the bottom of the ninth, Nick Castellanos had almost an identical frame-for-frame sliding, diving catch like he did against the Braves to save Game 1. Because if he misses that, the Astros score the winning run, because I believe it was on second base. Mm-hmm. And then so sent that into extra innings, and JT Realmuto hit a go-ahead home run to right field that just cleared the wall, just over Tucker's glove. So the Phillies jumped out to a 1-0 series lead. They did beat, they didn't beat Justin Verlander, but Justin Verlander ended up dropping down to 0-6 all-time in World Series games. And he and Aaron Nola, they both just didn't have it. The Astros Kyle Tucker tagged Aaron Nola. Not the Astros themselves didn't. Kyle Tucker did with his 2-home run game. But they fought back and took Game 1. So that was an exciting win. I thought that might propel them to a series win. But things definitely changed, as we'll get to later.
Mm-hmm. What about Game 2, Joe?
Yeah, Game 2, Astros win this one 5-2. Great pitching by Valdez in this one. He struck out 9 in the 6th and the 3rd that he was in there. Altuve went 3 for 4 and a double and a run to spark the offense. So the Astros responded to losing Game 1 and were ready to split there, which they obviously, I think, needed to do mentally.
Yeah, anytime a team comes into your park and smacks you down a game, especially in extra innings, that's a big momentum swing. I think if the Phillies would have taken games 1 and 2 in Houston, you're looking at a completely different series, because 2-0 versus 1-1 is, much harder to come back from. But, with the electric crowd in Philadelphia, just think about how that would have been trying to come back from a 2-0 deficit. That was absolutely a must-win for the Astros Game 2, I think.
Yeah, they responded better than I thought they would. I mean, they're a great team. We knew that they would respond in some way. But that stealing Game 1 could have absolutely derailed the Astros. So they had great pitching from Valdez and Wheeler. They jumped out 3 straight doubles off of Zach Wheeler to kind of knock him down. So
that was kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, and then series moved back to Philadelphia, Jason.
Yeah, first World Series game in Philadelphia since 2009, and crowd was in it, and the team was clearly in it. This was, of course, my favorite game of the whole series, because it was one that was fairly stress-free, and 2, it ended up being just home run after home run after home run for the Phillies in a 7-0 win. They had a record-tying 5 home runs this game. You had home runs from Harper, Schwarber, Hoskins, Brandon Marsh, and Alec Boehm. So. And all of those home runs were off of Lance McCullers Jr., which I don't know why Dusty left him in as long as he did, unless it was just, all right, this one's over, so let's just see if he can eat some more innings.
Yeah.
But McCullers only went 4 1/3 innings, and Ranger Suarez, he was the best pitcher the Phillies had for the entire postseason. Wheeler and Nola were great leading up to the World Series, but they struggled in the World Series. Ranger was dominant basically the whole time. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 walk, and had 4 strikeouts. It was a great bounce back game for the Phillies, which this was a series of trying to bounce back for both teams, and the Astros ended up bouncing back better than the Phillies did. So Phillies got their second win and their final win of the season with the 7-0 win in Game 3 to go up 2-1.
Hey, Jason, I wanted to ask you, do you think that switching Nola and Wheeler had anything to do with their performance in the World Series? Mentally, at least?
I don't, because I think knowing how fatigued those two workhorses were, I think switching them gave Nola regular rest, but gave Wheeler extra rest. It just didn't work out. Wheeler's fastball was about 4 miles an hour slower than it usually was. So I think with all that they did throughout the season, they just flat out ran out of gas in the World Series. And Wheeler actually did really well in Game 6. So, and Nola did fine in Game 4 until he ran into trouble in the 5th, I believe it was. So.
Yeah, I also thought maybe in their first starts, Game 1 and 2, it looked like they were sort of aiming as opposed to just pitching. So I think the moment got to them a little bit. Yeah,
I think they were trying too hard to give their team the edge. I think Wheeler was trying hard, especially after getting down 3-0 early. He had to really try to buckle down, and they just had his number that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the point you made about Suarez, the only start I can think of that he had that wasn't dominating and great was his start against Atlanta when he walked 3 or 4 guys and 5 guys. Okay, so he needed a burger after that one. So that was his only bad start in the entire postseason. Yeah, I would have to say at least pitching wise MVP for the Phillies. Although I think if I had to pick a postseason MVP for the Phillies, I think it has to be Harper for me. But yeah, Jason, you're absolutely right. Suarez he was the most consistent pitcher and just had a hell of a postseason.
Yeah. And the good thing for them is he's not even arbitration eligible for like the next 3 to 4 years. He's such a young kid that they can just keep developing him. And, the MVP for the Phillies of the entire postseason was 100% Bryce Harper. The team up through into the World Series, they did spread everything out. Everybody had their moments. Harper was the driving force with that, though. And actually, since we're still on Game 3 here, Bryce Harper had his home run, and he then called to Alec Boehm to say something to him. And basically it was now I don't know if they'll say what they saw now that the series is over, but Fox was trying to get them to be like, what did Bryce say to you, Alec? And like during the game, they're like, what did he say to you? And he was like, I'm going to tell you right now. But it had to be about pitching, tipping pitches or something like that, because Harper called Boehm over, told him something, and then first pitch, home run. So everybody contributed. Harper was definitely a driving force. And I think his home run against San Diego in the clinching game for the pennant, bottom of the 8th, that's going to go down as one of the greatest Phillies home runs of all time.
Yeah, without a doubt. One of the biggest home runs the Phillies have ever had in franchise history, if we're being honest. I read afterwards McCullers was saying, no, I don't think I was tipping my pitches But, when one guy talks to a bunch of other guys and they all hit home runs, I'm going to tend to believe that even if you don't think you were tipping pitches, you were doing something, bud, because they had your number completely as if it was like playing MLB The Show on rookie mode. All right, so then this is where things kind of started to fall apart for the Phillies. Game 4 was insane. The Astros won 5-0. It was a combined no-hitter from Javier and the Astros bullpen. That was the first no-hitter of any variety in the World Series game since Don Larson's perfect game. The Astros pitching staff combined for 14 strikeouts and only 3 walks. Damn. That's really all you can say about that. They just came in, they flat out dominated. And the fact that they did it in Philadelphia shocks me.
I don't want to hear nothing about Citizens Bank Park being a bandbox. 3 postseason no-hitters in MLB history. 2 of the 3 are at Citizens Bank Park.
That's insane. One of those was Doc's, right? All right,
Yep.
so they've won 1 and lost 1. Okay.
Yeah, Doc had his very first postseason start in 2010. Was a no-hitter in Game 1 of the divisional series against the Reds. I believe it was like a 1-0 or 2-0 win.
That's insane. What are the odds? So friend of a friend, Keith Paradise, he was at the game and said, "Oh bleep that, I was there. And if you're gonna suck, make your sucking historic. I wanted a no-hitter by the 8th inning when it was evident these bats couldn't do anything. No one on earth is gonna care to hear about that time. I went to a 5-0 World Series game where the Phillies squeaked out 3 dribble dick grounders up the middle for hits, but a no-hitter." I read that. I was like, Keith, please let me reread that on the. He's like, please do. And you know what? Anytime you're in the stands for that, even if it's not your team, when it's getting late like that in the game and it's obvious that there's no way in hell you're coming back, yeah, you root for the other pitcher.
Yeah, and it's one where I know a few people that were actually at the game. Our buddy Matt was there, and I asked him about it, and he said, honestly, I was just glad to be there. Not even so much about the history, but just the fact that he got to be at a World Series game. But
I asked Matt to type something up, but I think he forgot to do it before tonight. So maybe I'll read that next time. Next
we don't need to keep reliving the World Series loss, Andrew. It's okay.
No. I just wanted to get reaction from somebody who was there. If he was there for the win, I would have wanted to hear from him.
But yeah, so it was. I was so broken as far as like and torn apart as to how I felt about it. It was like, cool, they're a part of history. Yay!
That's you wanted. History has its eyes on you.
I guess. But I mean, and the thing is, though, the mind-blowing part of it was they went from 7-0, 5 home runs, tying a World Series record for home runs in a game, to nothing. to Game 5 when Schwarber hits the second pitch out.
That's why I said that had to feel really good to get that first hit after being no hit. So it's not going to happen a second time in a row. The crazy thing is how the fan experience changes when something historic is happening. Obviously I wasn't down in Atlanta when Randy Johnson threw a perfecto against the Braves, but by the end of the game, you could hear the crowd cheering for Johnson. And you see this anytime somebody is pushing for a no-hitter or a perfect game. Even if he's on the road, the home team fans will turn against their own team to see something historic. And if you are that jackass who drops a dribble bunt in the 8th inning to break up a perfect game or a no-hit bid, they're going to boo you out of the park, and you deserve it.
Oh, I doubt Philly would have booed like Gene Segura or Brandon Marsh out of the ballpark if they dropped a bunt to avoid history in the World Series. I see we do have a comment from our friend Dan here, and that is 100% accurate. They're a streaky team. They have streaky hitters, and they were hot coming in, and they cooled off in a hurry after Game 3.
Yeah. All right, Joe. What about Game 5?
Yeah, Game 5, Astros win this one 3-2, and Verlander gets his first World Series win, which just boggles my mind. And how poorly he's pitched in the World Series over the years. That's insane.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think before Game 5, I think he had like a 6 ERA in the World Series, which is mind blowing. But the Astros win this one 3-2. McCormick made this ridiculous catch in center field. I didn't watch the game, but from what I saw pictures of, that was pretty crazy. And the Phillies just weren't able to take advantage of 6 walks from Houston pitching after the night before, where they only had 3. And it just felt like after Game 3, the bats just died.
Yeah. And the thing with that is it wasn't so much as Verlander pitched his way to a win. It's the Phillies just let him off the hook.
Yeah.
They were swinging. I mean, think back to, I think it was the second or the third inning when they had bases loaded and there were 2 walks in the inning, I think, already. Hoskins comes up and first pitch, he's swinging at a slider that's out of the zone. That changes the course of the whole at bat.
Yeah.
Because if you start with 1-0, get to 2-0, you're going to get something to hit. And that was their problem all year, and it bit them hard in especially in Game 5 against Verlander. And Chas McCormick, that hit, that was a game-saving hit. First off, Chas McCormick is a Westchester guy. He grew up going to Citizens Bank Park for Phillies games, and he ended up going to Millersville in Lancaster County to play baseball.
Nice.
But I mean, if he doesn't make that catch in center field, JT's on second, if not third, with Harper coming up and only 1 out, and most likely that game gets tied.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was rough. And Dan, I did mention that it was the second pitch of the game for that.
And then the Reds did the same thing to the Phillies after Doc's no-hitter. Just crazy how that happens. Not that really worked that well for the Reds, if I remember correctly, but
I believe it was a 3-game sweep.
And then, Joe, just you're right. Verlander's World Series stats, horrible. 1-6, a 5.63 ERA, and 9 starts. Only 48 innings, 45 hits given up, 10 home runs given up, 20 walks, 50 strikeouts. Definitely very, very, very abnormal compared to his career numbers everywhere else. Just, and that's the funny thing too. Greg Maddux was never a great postseason World Series pitcher. I mean, the year the Braves won, he did win 1 game, but then he got shelled the next game. And that was actually, and I remember when I was reading Glavin's biography years ago, he said he talked to Greg after the game, do I need to change up how I'm pitching these guys? And Maddux said, no, I was just off not hitting my spots. Do what you do best. And, the rest was history. But that came after John Smoltz got rocked too. And Smoltz was a stud in the playoffs for most of his career. But those, that Cleveland team hit power pitching like nobody else. It's just, it's crazy how you can be so dominant in one area of the game, and then you flip it to the postseason, it just goes out the window with some guys and yips, different players amped up to different levels. Who knows what it is, but I would have never, Verlander's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any question about that. The fact that he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer with a 1-6 World Series record with an ERA in the 5s is just insane. That the rest of his career is just that much better. Absolutely insane. All right. And then in the penultimate game, we'll just rip the Band-Aid off here quick, Jason. It was a 4-1 win. The Astros actually became the first team to win in their own ballpark in quite a number of years. It's been, I don't remember what year it was that last happened, but it's been a while. It was a 4-1 win. Framber Valdez dude pitched phenomenal this World Series and throughout the entire postseason. Struck out 9 over 6 innings. Jason, you alluded to this earlier. Wheeler did pitch really well, but the bullpen could not give him any support. Alvarez took Alvarado deep on an enormous 450-foot home run, which was trying to catch up with a Soler and Schwarber's home run balls that are already in orbit. I don't think it quite made it there, though. And the crazy thing is that happened the inning right after Schwarber started the scoring in that game with that solo shot. Give Kyle Schwarber credit, man. That guy did everything he could. He was the Phillies guy who's been to the postseason, been to the World Series, has a ring, knows how to handle the moment. After tough losses, I don't give a shit about this game. We're moving on to the next game.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what he said after the no-hitter. I mean, he said, you know what, like, I don't give a shit that we were no hit. We need to win tomorrow. And he comes out and backed it up with a home run to lead off the game. So I think for the Phillies, Schwarber was the MVP from the offensive side in the World Series itself. Mm-hmm. Harper had an okay series. He, like the rest of the team, faded in the last 3 games. The Phillies in the last 3 games hit 068 as a team. You're not going to do anything with that.
Nope.
So, and that Alvarez shot. Do you guys remember when the Astros had the flagpole and the Berkman Hill in center field? This thing would have been over that. It was over the batter's eye in dead center field. That was a mammoth home run. And I'll be honest, I did not watch the end of the game because I couldn't bring it to myself to watch the final out and the celebration. I will never get over the Astros in 2017. And I mean, even like the fact, Maldonado used an illegal bat in game 1 of this series. You had Valdez potentially with stuff in the second. Like, I know that there were it may have been incidental with game 1. And I know Valdez.
The bat, I actually looked into this. The bat's an illegal bat because of the way it was manufactured. It's not a performance enhancing thing. It was because when those bats shatter, they shattered with a lot of shrapnel and players were getting potentially hurt, especially pitchers. That's why that particular bat was outlawed. Pujols was still using that bat because he was grandfathered in. He had asked Pujols if he could borrow a couple bats for the World Series, kind of a for luck thing. And Pujols sent him, I think, a whole case of bats, but he's a couple years too young to be grandfathered in. And so when MLB became aware of it, they informed him and he stopped using the bats right away.
Yeah.
That's really not a big deal, I don't think, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Plus they lost that game anyway.
But it still just all doesn't sit right with me. And then, like, I know Valdez was being looked at in game 2, but stuff just looked really shady going on there. And I don't know. I still can't get over the Astros with 2017 and I'm happy for Trey Mancini and for Dusty Baker, and that's it. And Alvarado, he just ran into some bad luck. Dan, he was phenomenal for the entire postseason. Came into high leverage situations, shut things down, and he just didn't have it in the series. The thing that bothered me was sports media being like, Alvarado gave up all these runs in what was it, the NOLA game 4. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the dude came in with bases loaded and nobody out. What do you think's gonna happen? You can't expect him to just strike out 2 in a row. Like, the odds are he's going to give something up.
Well, let's face it. Anytime you have a pitcher coming in with either bases loaded or second and third with no outs, at least one run's going to score most of the time. And as Joe pointed out in the private chat, if it's Dave Robertson, it probably would have been a grand slam.
Yeah.
But, it's like I know Matt came in last year in the NLCS and blew the Dodgers out when it was second and third and no outs. That doesn't happen that often. Even with closers with shutout stuff, like think of Mariano Rivera in the postseason, who is without a doubt the greatest postseason relief pitcher to ever play the game. Even he, if you bring him in with runners on second and third and no outs, even he is liable to give up at least one of those runs as an inherited run. And of course, his ERA would still stay in the sub ones because it's an inherited runner, not his runner.
Oh, Dan, the leaning into the pitches. Oh,
that drove me nuts because umpires this year have been garbage about calling that. The Mets got away with that really early in the year against the Marlins in that walk-off hit by pitch that he didn't even make an effort to move out of the way and clearly leaned into it, and they still gave the Mets the walk-off win instead of the strike three. Umpires all year were not calling that.
Well, but the thing with that was that pitch was a strike. They ended up calling him back and saying it was a ball. Like, that should have been a strike. It was down the middle of the damn plate.
Yeah, that was bogus. Ronnie, we're not even gonna talk about that year because I am still bitter about that NFC Conference Championship game. Fucking Eagles.
Must have been a night game.
No, Cousins wasn't there. That was Keenum that year. That was before Cousins. That was the year Minnesota should have been playing in a Super Bowl at home. But
yeah,
no, Tom Brady got to do that first. Freaking Brady. Anyway.
Todd has a really good point here as well, and I agree completely. Wheeler should have been given the option to get out of his own jam there in Game 6. I get why Thompson did it. I think that was the rare misstep for Thompson in the series. He had been really good the entire time, but Wheeler still had stuff left. I probably would have. I understand it.
He was still throwing mid-90s. It's once
he
starts to dip down to 94, that's me anyway. I would say he needs to go at that point. But he was still throwing 95, 96. I personally, I would have left him in because Alvarado was gassed.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You can throw 101, but if your pitch doesn't move and you leave it middle, it's going to get smashed 450 feet over the batter's eye in center field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was idiotic. It sounded like Wheeler was caught by surprise by that.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I'm sorry. He's not going to pitch the next day.
Yeah.
He's not going to pitch for another 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Empty the tank.
His pitch until his arm falls off, which is what, we talked about the Phillies all year, and I kept saying, if I'm Zach Wheeler, I make him drag me off the mound.
Exactly. And here's the thing. His pitch count wasn't even excessive at that point, if I remember right.
No, it was 70.
Yeah. 70 pitches. Give me a break. Can leave him out there. Dan, that's another thing. And this is actually, I've heard color commentators that used to be pitchers mention this many times over the years, listening to broadcasts. If there's a break mid-inning, it really breaks their rhythm up, and it's very hard for them to get back into it again. And the hit by pitch against Acuna, I mean, that rattled him. Like, that was one of Joe and I in the group chat, because I don't know where Jason was, but Joe and I were trying to figure out why the hell JT didn't at least call timeout and go out and just calm Wheeler down and give him a break, because he likes just go, 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 go. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Ron, why not bring Nola? I don't like it coming right after he pitched like that, but at the same time, I granted, hindsight's always going to be 20/20, but
any move was going to be to a left-hander against Jordan. That they weren't going to bring Nola in to pitch to Jordan.
And weren't the two of the next three guys lefties as well?
because you had Kyle Tucker 2 batters later who
Yeah.
destroyed
Yeah.
Nola in game 1.
Yeah, it has to be a lefty there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Didn't work out.
Yeah, hell of a series though.
Yeah.
So Jeremy Pena got the MVP award. What a rookie season for this kid. He became the first ever rookie to win a Golden Glove. For the series, he hit 400 with a 102.3 OPS. He led all batters to 10 hits, 15 total bases, hit the go-ahead home run off Syndergaard in Game 5. He became the 4th rookie to pass the 1 OPS for a single World Series, joining Pepper Martin of the 31 Cardinals, who had a 1.33, Andre Jones of the Braves in 96, who was 1.25, and Randy Arozarena with a 1.234 just 2 years ago. What a hell of a year, man. And honestly, Pena put up solid numbers in the regular season too. 253, 22 homers, 63 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. If it wasn't for a certain player out in Seattle and a certain guy in Baltimore, he'd honestly be a really good candidate for Rookie of the Year. Excuse me. He's also the first rookie position player to win a World Series MVP in the 3rd overall, as Larry Sherry in 59 and Levon Hernandez in 97 also became rookies to win World Series MVP. Yeah, I remember Levon in 97. Dude was insane.
Marlins. Wow.
Man. And he was also the ALCS MVP as well. So it just hell of a postseason, hell of a season. I was really happy to see Dusty finally get a ring, see Mancini get a ring, although I really wish Mancini would have been in a much better shade of orange to get that ring, shall we say. So guys, I got a question for you. Are the Astros now a dynasty? If we go back to the Asterisk win back in 2017, they won that year. They were next in the World Series in 19 when they lost to the Nationals in that thrilling 7-gamer. They lost to Atlanta last year, but they beat the Phillies this year. So, I mean, that's 2-4 over a 6-year span. Have they reached dynasty stage?
From an American League standpoint, yes. From a baseball standpoint, no.
Fair.
Yeah, definitely not from a baseball as a whole standpoint. I mean, if more of those are titles, that obviously changes the discussion. But
yeah.
I
mean,
the
fact that they've been in the ALCS, I think, each of the last 5 or 6 years, right? So I mean, they're a dynasty from the American League side of things. But yeah, Ron, I think that's exactly it. They're always going to be known for that cheating scandal and for the lack of discipline that happened with it. Anytime they make it this far, anytime they get into the series or win the series, there's going to be questions. And I noticed that in a work chat today, somebody brought up how it's like we're already done talking about the World Series and it only ended 2 days ago. And the reason for that is outside of Houston, nobody cares that they won the World Series because outside of Houston and even outside like NL East people wanted the Phillies to win. So if the Phillies won, it would be all over the place.
Well, again, the Phillies hadn't won a World Series since 11?
2008 was their last World Series win. They were in the World Series last in 2009 when they lost to the Yankees. Their last playoffs was 2011.
Okay. Yeah, I got my numbers mixed up. And like last year, Atlanta, that was their first title since 95. Like people love to see these teams that haven't won titles in a long time win titles. Like my father-in-law, a long-suffering Eagles fan, he got his Super Bowl. But because the Eagles so rarely make the Super Bowl, what he ends up doing is, okay, who's it been longer since they won a Super Bowl or have they ever? Okay, that's my team for this year. Yeah, and I think, for the vast majority of people that really truly have no betting or vested interest in it, that's what you do. You look at the underdog and you say, they're kind of scrappy. Let's go with the underdog. But yeah, it's kind of like when the Yankees were on that run in the 90s, early 2000s. It's like, okay, the Yankees won another. Shut up, New York. Go away. We'll see you next year.
Yeah,
So
and I think because of the Astros history now with the cheating, like people don't want them to win.
that's a good point too. They're like the Patriots are always going to have questions. And Dan made a good point earlier too, with Pena against the Padres. Soto Machado came up, bases empty a lot. Pena always had somebody on base, and he delivered consistently.
Yeah.
Great point, Stan. And Ron, if the Phillies could, yeah, Ron, man, that's awesome. It's the one thing that sucks when you live several states away from your team is me going to a World Series game isn't happening anytime soon unless I win a contest. So for it's something that I was really happy for all of my friends around who are Phillies fans and managed to get tickets and were able to go see games. I was really happy for all of you guys.
I felt like I was the only Phillies fan of all the friends I know that didn't go to a game.
Jason, I actually put myself into that lottery on Twitter for tickets. If I would have won the 1 in several million odds, I was going to give you the ticket.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm actually considering. I'm actually considering. Karen knows this, so I know if she's watching or listening, like she knows I'm already talking to her about this. I'm considering doing like a partial season plan for next year, so I have the opportunity to get postseason tickets for each round. But because you can get them for a regular box office price and not those insane $1,500, $2,000, whatever. And they do payment plans for the partial season tickets. So it's nice. Spread things out and figure you can't go to a few games. You sell the tickets and whatnot, and you have your tickets paid for.
Just a reminder, you have 2 co-hosts who like non-Phillies teams, and if they happen to be in your package,
I'm sure the Braves are in there. But yeah, I'm actually looking at the area where you and I sat when we went with the wives, Andrew, that 300 level area.
Yeah, I liked it up there, honestly. Now, Matt's tickets were nuts. That was crazy to be that close, and that was amazing. But I got to tell you, for an evening time game, that 300 level on the left field side, so you're not blinded by the sun for the first third of the game, is absolutely beautiful. Plus, we had a nice breeze coming in off the river that night too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was the World Series. It was, again, Jason, I really am sorry that the Phillies weren't able to pull it off, but it was a fun series to watch. And let's face it, the Phillies are going to be back. This team is built for long-term success. They're very young, but they've got some core older guys that help guide the younger guys. You guys honestly remind me a lot of Atlanta from last year. You have a good core of young guys. Same thing I said about the Phillies last postseason. I'm going to say it again. Keep fixing the bullpen. Keep tooling that bullpen.
And that's the thing. I know we'll talk about this in a future show with needs. But the thing is, the Phillies are going to be able to spend again this year because while their core is intact, they have a few free agents, and including people that they released like Gregorius and Odubel. Those contracts are.
What will you ever do without Didi and Odubel?
But all of that money is coming off the books. They're going to have around $70 million before they get to that luxury tax. And if they're willing to go into luxury tax again, which I think John Middleton, knowing how close they are, will be willing to do that. Yeah. Phillies are going to spend this offseason.
They should. This is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the NL Champions Division is going to be very, very tough for the foreseeable future with, 4 out of the 5 teams winning a World Series within the 21st century. So I think we can relegate the Mets somewhere else because they are not a part of that elite club yet. And
they're at least part of the National League champions. They're in the same boat as the Phils. They won the league, just didn't quite get that title.
Yeah, but the Phillies at least have a 21st century World Series title.
True.
The Mets don't.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I know the NL East is going to be tough for years to come.
Oh yeah.
Between the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies, I expect a continual bloodbath for the next couple of years, and it's going to be a great time watching. But yeah, the Phillies are well set, so uh, nothing to be ashamed of for how the season
Nope.
ended. It's going to be a good ride going forward.
Oh yeah, great season. Little sad ending, but phenomenal ride. But yeah, so as we move out of the Todd,
I'm so,
I'm actually impressed, Todd, that you're still listening after those comments. So we'll move away from the World Series into some managerial hires. We have a couple here. The Royals did hire Matt Quatraro as the 18th manager in franchise history. It's the first MLB managerial position of his career. He previously spent 19 years as a coach and instructor in baseball, and he's been the Rays bench coach for the last 4 seasons. He was bench coach and third base coach under Kevin Cash with the Rays, and he was also an assistant hitting coach under Terry Francona. So an interesting hire. Don't know that I understand it, but I guess teams like trying to see if they can catch lightning in a bottle with new managers.
Well, and I read an article. The Royals had several internal candidates they were considering, but the consenting voice among ownership and GM and other people who were involved in the rounds of interviews was that they really wanted to get outside of the organization and bring an outside voice, a fresh voice in. And he's an interesting choice, but he definitely has a good pedigree of managers that he worked under. So we'll see.
Yeah. Joe, anything on the Royals hire?
I think, as you know, with the Royals, I think they're just looking for, a positive movement upward. Whether that goes as far as they hope to go every year, I don't know. But it's you got to start somewhere, and I think having an outside voice is sometimes not a bad idea.
Yeah, because I mean, since the World Series win in 2015 over the Mets, they've kind of talk about a fall off. I mean, I know the Nationals kind of equaled or bettered that type of a drop off, but the Royals haven't been relevant since then.
No, they have not.
No, yeah, I think they certainly had to make some kind of move, and what they were doing wasn't working. So, see what happens.
Yeah. And then we have the White Sox got their new skipper. They hired Pedro Grifol as the 42nd manager in franchise history. He was the chosen candidate out of 30 candidates originally. It was pared down to 8 with those first round of interviews, and he ended up coming out on top. He was previously a bench coach and a catching coach with the Royals. So we'll see what happens there. He's the 8th active manager who never previously played in the majors, and he will be the 4th current Latino manager. So again, interesting choice, especially with no MLB experience from a player standpoint. Yeah, good luck, especially with the White Sox organization.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, it's not always, I think it's not always necessarily, the MLB experience doesn't always obviously correlate into success. I mean, you look at, not necessarily from a management standpoint, but Michael Jordan as a GM and ownership in the NBA, he's god awful at making decisions for that club based on talent.
Very true.
He's trying to catch the next Tim, and that's just not, judging talent based off of your skill set is not exactly a good idea.
And it's like watching Ted Williams try to either manage or be a hitting coach. Just because it worked for you with your otherworldly vision doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else. And oh wait, it didn't.
And the other thing too is, I think George Brett was quoted as saying he thought it was a good idea, a good move. Reinsdorf wasn't on board at first and then became on board. So the fact that he didn't like it right out of the gate is a good start.
So true.
Because he's not exactly a very good judge of when to do what. See the 1998 Bulls, you dumbass.
100% true. We were talking about falling apart after winning the World Series. The Royals, they had one 500 year, and then it's been under since 494, 358, 364, 433, 457, 401. The Nationals, 433, 401, 340. I think right now the Nationals beat the Royals to the basement and are setting up camp, but not really great either way for those guys. And then the first big free agent sign, well, this is really a re-signing because he never actually hit the free agent market, but that's happened. So, Joe, since you are have familial ties to the Mets through your father-in-law, you want to talk about Diaz?
Yeah, like you said, they kind of jumped the gate on this one. Steve Cohen wants to spend stupid money. Keep doing it, bud. Re-signed Edwin Diaz, 5 years, $102 million, the largest monetary value for a reliever. The previous high was Chapman, who, we saw how that worked for a few years and then kind of flamed out. The other thing, too, is on top of this deal, there's an $18 million signing bonus. So, if this works, then that's great. If it doesn't work, then it's terrible money.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth with that one, man. You knew he was going to be the first reliever to surpass a $100 million contract, that no doubt. And you knew the Mets were going to have to spend it because other teams were willing to go to the $100 million mark.
Yeah. I think the other thing you have to think about with them too is that you've got DeGrom obviously opted out. There's uncertainty about Nimmo in center field. There's uncertainty about Taijuan Walker and whether he'll reject or even get a qualifying offer. There's a lot of unknowns. So I think to secure that bullpen was something you just have to do.
Yeah, really no choice in the matter. And we'll see how long he can stay a dominant closer. I mean, we've seen guys have one season and that was that. And we've seen guys that terrible for years get great and stay great. Who knows which way he's going to go. I mean, currently he's more towards that B side of that trajectory than the A side. But yeah, so yeah, the Trumpets will remain in New York and Atlanta for right now. All right, so looking at the Golden Glove Awards they were announced. We could have talked about it last week, but we ran out of time with all the World Series preview stuff we did. So here are the winners for the National League first. Jason, go ahead, bud.
Catcher JT Realmuto from the Philadelphia Phillies, which was not a surprise. He was clearly the best catcher in baseball, not only through the regular season, but we saw how good he was on the world stage in the playoffs. It's his second career Gold Glove. Andrew, your notes are actually a little wrong on this. You said that he's the first Phillies player to win since Jimmy Rollins in 2012. His first Gold Glove was actually with the Phillies in 2019.
I think first, well, okay. Yeah, first non himself since Rollins.
First not himself since Rollins in 2012. I'll give you that. But he was the first Phillies Gold Glover since he did it himself in 2019.
Yeah.
So JT, hands down best catcher in baseball, and he got the Gold Glove now to back that up.
Yeah, I don't think this was ever close. Like I said, I'm glad d'Arnaud got nominated. If d'Arnaud would have won over JT, I would have even said that was a complete load of crap. And then for first base, it went to Christian Walker of Arizona, his first career Golden Glove. He led all of baseball first baseman with 17 defensive run saves and 14. Oh my God, I'm blanking. What is that? Anyway,
outs above average.
Outs above average. Thanks, Joe. I really need to learn the advanced stuff for fielding because I know the WAR, I know all that other stuff really well. I don't know the stuff for fielding as well, and I do need to get better at that. So, I thought it should have been Freddie Olson, or Goldschmidt, but yeah, now that I look more at what Walker did, yeah, I got no arguments there. Second baseman Brendan Rodgers of the Rockies, he led all MLB. Second baseman with defensive run saved with 22, which was second overall in baseball to Ke'Bryan Hayes, who had 24. 22 defensive run saves as a second baseman is nuts. Can we all agree on that? That's insane.
Absolutely. Well done.
And then at shortstop, Dansby Swanson of the Braves gets his first career Golden Glove. The third time a Braves shortstop has won one, and the other two were both by Andrelton Simmons back in 13 and 14. I remember Simba's defense. That was about the only highlight of those 13-14 Braves that I care to remember because those were not great years. He led all of and he, I love Dansby. The dude, he's an average bat who's got streaks of being great, but he's always a solid glove out there. I'm glad to see he finally won one because shortstop has been hard to win in recent years. It's been very tight. So, I very happy to see Dansby take that.
It's even harder when the second best shortstop doesn't get nominated.
I agree. Do you want to do it now or do you want to wait till the end?
What the hell? Let's do it now.
All right, go ahead. Tell us why Nico got absolutely hosed. I 100% agree with you on this one. He should have been nominated.
I mean, the WAR was on defensive WAR, Rojas was 2.6 and Kim was 2.1. So on that number, he's behind those two guys. But Dansby was a 2.0. So I mean, how much does that part really matter? Defensively, at least. Defensive runs saved. Nico had 11. Dansby had 9. Rojas had 15, and Kim had 10. Outs above average, he was second to Swanson. Swanson had 20, Nico had 13, Rojas had 10, and Kim had 6. And you also talk about the fact that this was a year where, before the season started, I was like, okay, go get one of these other top shortstops. Like, what are you doing? And now I don't want to do that. The complete turnaround and showing that you can do that job every day and have the success that he had, I think, should have at least been in the conversation. I'm not saying he should have beaten Dansby for it, but I think the fact that he wasn't a finalist over Kim for sure. Yeah. Kim had 6 outs above average and Nico has 13.
And Dansby had 21, which is probably why he won that.
Right.
But still, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Nico should have been one of the nominees. Yep. He got screwed. And then at third baseman, shocker, it was Nolan Arenado, guys. It was his 10th Golden Glove in 10 seasons. He ties Mike Schmidt for second most all-time for third baseman. He trails the great Brooks Robinson's 16. Good luck catching that.
Yeah. And you want to talk snubs?
Yeah,
Nolan Arenado should not have won the Gold Glove at third base this year. It should have gone to Ke'Bryan Hayes of the Pirates.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
He was the best defensive third baseman this season, had the highest outs above average in all of baseball.
Yeah.
And had the highest defensive run saved for at least for third baseman, if not for all of baseball. The Gold Glove for third base should have 100% gone to Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
24 defensive runs saved, best in baseball. 24 as a third baseman. What the hell? It should not.
Yeah, that third base competition was all but a popularity contest. It was just kind of stupid.
100%. Ke'Bryan Hayes got hosed. Joe, how about left field, bud?
Yeah, left field, a guy who last year I wanted sent back down to Iowa. Really, earned his keep this year. Really was one of the best. Him and Nico were the best turnarounds from last year, I think, on the club this year. His first career Gold Glove, his 4th outfielder in Cub history to win a Gold Glove, joining Andre Dawson, Hall of Famer, I think, Bob Dernier, and the great Jason Hayward. So
who was signed purely for his club for reasons that still don't make sense to anybody. And yes, Andre Dawson was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So I was really pleased. Again, obviously, defensively, I was not scared if a ball was hit to left field. Offensively, obviously, I know this isn't an offensive award, but offensively, the kid brought it all year.
Yeah. I was really kind of hoping Atlanta was going to try and get him at the trade deadline, maybe Dumbo Zuna, but that sadly did not happen. It might have helped. In center fielder, we have another snub, but the winner was Trent Grisham of the Padres, his second career Golden Glove. The only Padres player to win a Golden Glove since Chase Headley in 2012. And he had 17 outs above average in the regular season, which I believe led center fielder. Actually, I don't know if that led him or not, but it should have been Trent Grisham. It should have been Michael Harris. That kid plays better defense in center field than anybody I've seen since Andre Jones. I know I've said that 1,000 times, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's true.
It almost feels to me, just going through the NL list, like a bunch of rookies got snubbed.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, Joe. Here's his fielding numbers.
It's like that belief that the rookies shouldn't be eligible or they shouldn't be winning when it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, way back when in college basketball, when they didn't let freshmen start, like that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I know Harris only played in 114 games, so keep this in mind that he managed to do this in 114 games as a center fielder. He had a defensive WAR of 1.3. You don't see that. 252 putouts, 3 assists. I mean, he had 2 errors, but that's a 992 fielding percentage. I think I can live with a 992 as a center fielder. Just absolutely ridiculous that he was not even one of the nominees. That one pisses me off. And he's got a cannon for an arm, too. I'm waiting for him to – do you remember when Inciarte faked out – I think it was Carlos Ruiz. He faked out like he lost the ball in center field even though he knew exactly where it was. So Ruiz ran – he caught it and just gunned him out at first base. I fully expect Harris to be doing things like that sometime in the relatively near future as well. He's just that good of a player, and he's so fast to cover that much ground in center field too. So
he did a great job in the divisional game with that fly ball to the wall for JT Real Muto.
Yeah, that should have been
a great backup from his right fielder, Ronald Acuna Jr. too.
Yeah, Acuna probably thought he had it because he usually does have it. And then right fielder in what's probably another popularity contest, but one that was actually earned, Mookie Betts' sixth career Golden Glove. He led all Major League Baseball right fielders with 15 defensive runs saved, 4th outfielder in Dodgers history to win multiple Gold Glove awards, along with Willie Davis, Raul Mondesi, which I believe I actually have a signed baseball from him, and Matt Kemp as well. And then for pitcher, it was Max Fried of the Braves, his 3rd consecutive Gold Glove, one of 3 Braves pitchers who have won multiple, which would be Maddox with 10 and Phil Niekro, not Joe Niekro, with 5. So, and then for the first time ever, we had.
Before we get to the utility one there, one name to look out for next year, and you saw his defense on display in the postseason this time. The only reason he did not get the Gold Glove nomination and the Gold Glove this year is because he didn't have the innings to qualify when the announcements were made. Ranger Suarez.
Yeah.
He is going to be winning some Gold Gloves, especially if he stays healthy and keeps that defense going the way he did all season. The thing that I was watching people analyze him, he ends, and I know Fried does this too, but I think Ranger does it just a touch better. He ends in such a perfect fielding position that he can go get anything hit out in front of the plate. He can be ready for the comebacker. And you saw him make multiple run-saving plays by firing a bullet over to first base on a dribbler out in front of the plate. Look at the bunt in the clinching game of NLCS when wet conditions, he grabs that ball and flings it to first without slipping. You're going to see Ranger Suarez get some Gold Gloves here. If not next year, very shortly after.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. He plays great defense as well. Another name to watch out for, too, coming back if he is able to play, which I hope he's able to stick with the Major League roster and stay, is Mike Soroka. Honestly, I think Soroka, before his Achilles injury, was a better defender than Fried is. I mean, he did the same thing as Ranger, just, as a right-handed pitcher instead of a left-handed pitcher. He could grab anything out in front of the mound, and his aggressiveness fielding is – how he hurt his Achilles in that game against the Mets. So, another name to watch out for if he is able to make the Major League roster and stick with it next year. All right. And then the utility for the first time ever. And this is a great addition. Now, if only they would also go back to 3 outfield instead of 3 positioned outfield, I would be really happy with that as well. But for utility, Brendan Donovan, he is your Trivia Pursuit answer in the future edition for the first NL player to win the Utility Gold Glove Award. He appeared at every position except for center field, pitcher, and catcher this year. So really a true utility player, hitting almost every spot in the field. Looking at the American League, catcher Jose Trevino of the Yankees, third Yankee player to win a Gold Glove, joining Thurman Munson and Elston Howard. He led all Major League catchers with 21 defensive runs saved. That's phenomenal. Wow. First base was Vlad Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays, his first Gold Glove. He had 3 defensive run saves. He is the first Blue Jay to win at first base Gold Glove. Second straight year, a Blue Jays player has won a Gold Glove after Marcus Semien broke a 15-year drought last year. So we'll see if Vlad can keep that streak going. Second base, and this is the first of many Cleveland Guardian players. Andres Jimenez. This was his first Gold Glove. He led all American League second basemen with 16 defensive run saves, 12 outs above average. Joined Cesar Hernandez and Roberto Alomar as Cleveland's second baseman to win Gold Gloves. Good company to be a part of there.
Yeah.
Shortstop, as we mentioned earlier, Jeremy Pena of the Astros. He tied Miguel Rojas for defensive runs saved among Major League Baseball shortstops with 15. First Astros rookie to win Gold Glove and first rookie shortstop to win a Golden Glove. Third baseman went to Ramon Urias of the Orioles. And guys, I watched some of his highlights this year. That dude is a great fielder. This was his first Gold Glove, first of what I'm assuming will be many. He led all of AL third baseman with 14 defensive run saves, tied Josh Donaldson with 7 outs above average among all of the AL third basemen. And left fielder Steve Kwan of the Guardians, first Gold Glove, led all Major League Baseball left fielders with 21 defensive run. How do you get 21 defensive runs saved as a left fielder? That's insane. 10 outs above average. He is the first Cleveland rookie to win a Gold Glove. You had Miles Straw win his first Gold Glove. The first time Cleveland has ever had 2 Golden Glove outfielders in one season. He led all of the AL center fielders with 13 outs above average. Kyle Tucker, as Jason can attest to the brilliant glove he had. His first Gold Glove, he led all AL right fielders with 13 defensive runs saved. Bieber was the last Guardians player to win at pitcher. That was his first Gold Glove, first pitcher in Cleveland history to win a Gold Glove, and that set a Cleveland franchise record with 4 Golden Glovers all in the same year. Absolutely insane. And then the utility went to DJ LeMahieu of the Yankees, his 4th Gold Glove, first ever AL utility Gold Glove winner. Again, save that for your Trivial Pursuit games in the future. And he saw a significant time playing first, second, and third for the Yankees. So that is the Gold Glove winners for this year. What's crazy, guys, we had 14 first-time winners with the Golden Gloves this year. Is that a record?
It's got to be.
It very well could be.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. And I know, of course, it was a record. Yep, there we go. The old mark was 11. That was back in 2020 and 1958. So absolutely phenomenal. And hey, it was nice to see the Gold Gloves not get swept almost entirely by the St. Louis Cardinals this year.
Yeah. The other thing was that Edmund was nominated at second base and at utility for St. Louis.
That's bullshit. No. One or the other. You don't get both. That's absolute bullshit. All right. And then the BBWAA has announced the major award finalists, so we will be keeping an eye on these. AL Manager of the Year are 3 finalists, and this is, I think, one of the hardest ones to pick. Scott Servais, Brandon Hyde, and Terry Francona. Wow.
Which is Mariners, Orioles, and Guardians.
Yeah. Three. Honestly, all 3 guys deserve it. I wish they could give it to all 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
I told our buddy Jim earlier, Big Jim, that this is one you can't go wrong with whoever wins it. I can see it going to Francona because they won the division. My personal vote, I was torn between Servais and Hyde, just because Servais helped the Mariners end that drought. But the Mariners were going to be good. We knew they were going to be good because outside of the Astros, that division had nothing. My vote would actually be for Brandon Hyde. Taking the Orioles from 100 losses to a winning record, that incredible job. And this award, the Manager of the Year award, which this is going to start my bitterness. The Manager of the Year award is not about the team that does the best. It's not about the most wins. It's not necessarily about divisional titles. It's about which manager helped their team reach their max potential. Which manager helped their team through everything. And the Orioles went from 100 losses, and I know, Joe, you said they weren't going to be as bad as we all thought that they would be, but I don't think we had them with a winning record. And they had a winning record. I would vote for Brandon Hyde in this one.
Yeah, Joe, you nailed it. Who's your pick, Joe?
I'm not going to go against him. Brandon Hyde, like you said, Jason, on our preview shows, we said that the Mariners were either going to win the division or get to the playoffs. And I think all of us said that, which made Dave very happy. But, the Orioles was the team with the least expectation, I think. I think most people thought that Cleveland would, be a second or a distant second in the division because it's a crappy division in the AL Central. The Orioles was the team that nobody expected to do what they did.
Yep. And you can chalk me up for my prediction for Hyde as well. You guys nailed the reasons. So for NL Manager of the Year, the 3 candidates are Dave Roberts, Buck Showalter, and Brian Snitker. Thompson got screwed. Honestly, I don't care that the Dodgers won 110 games. I would not have Dave Roberts on that list. He's on that list simply because of the 110 wins. It really should be the 3 NL East guys. It should be Thompson, Showalter, and Snitker. Yeah, Jason, he got hosed. He should 100% be on this list.
He got absolutely effed over. Like I would have had other choice words, but just in case other people are watching, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
complete and utter bullshit. Any manager could have taken those Dodgers to 110 wins. You have an all-star roster. Like every single one of
the 3 of us could have taken the Dodgers to 110 wins.
And it's I can't get over, like, how do you snub a guy who took over a team in June that was 7 games under 500 and took them on a 95 win clip for the rest of the season to get them to the playoffs? Sure, they didn't win the division, but it's not about who gets the most wins. It's about who gets their team to perform beyond the expectations. Yes, the Phillies had high expectations at the start of the season, not necessarily divisional expectations, but playoff expectations. By June, that was gone. And every single person in the sports media who would be involved in this process said that a change of manager would do nothing for the Phillies.
Au contraire.
It did everything for the Phillies.
Yeah, because let's face it, if Thompson's not in charge and Joe Girardi's in charge, the Phillies might have fallen past the freaking Marlins into the basement.
There's
Not going to the World Series.
It blows my mind that Thompson is not in consideration for this award.
Yeah.
I don't even really want to pick that, because like to me this award means nothing at the moment, because it doesn't have the right people in it. And I say that more so because I'm angry for Rob Thompson, but I know what his reaction will be when asked about it, and I am okay with this as well. I will gladly trade that Manager of the Year award for the National League Championship pennant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a big part of it is, and maybe this is something that needs to start getting considered, maybe they need to start looking at postseason performance. I know they won't, and I know that this is a regular season award. So I know this is an if. If you include the postseason, Rob Thompson's easily Manager of the Year for the National League. But I know it's not included, but he should. And I'm not thinking that he would have won. I'm not saying he would have won the award had he been nominated over Dave Roberts. He would have had a hell of a chance, though. I think based off of this, if I had to pick a winner for Manager of the Year, just because they put Dave Roberts in, it might go to him because of the 110 wins. But I would send it back to Brian Snitker, because the Braves came back to win the division over the Mets.
And here's the thing, too. We're going to talk about 110 wins. Was Dusty nominated as one of the finalists? No. So why the hell was Roberts? The NL West is garbage.
Yeah.
Outside of the Dodgers and the Padres, and the Dodgers dominated the Padres. The NL East, on the other hand, was a bloodbath, like I said, all season, between that fight between Philadelphia and Atlanta and New York. So as far as I'm concerned, Roberts had a cakewalk to get in. And don't get me wrong, when the Dodgers played other 500-plus teams, they showed up and they won games because they've got one of the best teams money can buy. But give me a frickin' break. If we're the World Series champion manager didn't get nominated and had the same number of wins as Dave Roberts, who also makes stupid-ass decisions game in and game out all season long, pulling Clayton Kershaw out of a perfect game. The intentional walk when your pitcher's got two strikes. Like, what? Why is this guy in there and not Thompson? Why? I'd love to have an explanation, and I don't want to hear wins, because if it was wins, then one of the AL guys wouldn't be in and Dusty Baker would be in if it was purely about wins. So I'm going to go with Snitker, because screw Roberts, he shouldn't be there. And Buck, the Mets had that expectation to win that many games, whereas Snitker took a team that was falling apart and floundering and brought them back to win the division and match the Mets win total. So Snitker for me. Honestly, Jason, if it was between Snitker, Showalter, and Thompson, I was picking Thompson.
I probably would have too, just because how can you not recognize somebody that took a team that far under 500 in the basically halfway through the season and led them to the postseason?
Especially when they did it last year. They did it last year because Brian Snitker got Manager of the Year last year.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, like, the Phillies were, like, again, this is going to start including postseason because those are numbers I could find. They were 40 games above 500 under Rob Thompson.
Yeah.
How do you not get?
Yeah, it's bullshit, dude. You got completely hosed. He should be the manager of the year.
And end of the day, though, National League champs got the pennant.
I know, but they should. He shouldn't have to say that.
No,
he shouldn't have to say that.
No, I'm interested to see what the players say, because no doubt they'll be asking the players their thoughts on it. So,
I can't wait to hear what Schwarber and Harper have to say about that.
Schwarber is the one that I really want to hear from, because Bryce won't hold back. Schwarber is like levels above. Like he will say it 100%.
Why do you think Schwarber is usually one of the most beloved guys on any team he's on? You can't hate the guy. So Joe,
who's your pick?
After all that ranting and raving.
Jeez. Yeah. Look, I agree with you guys. I think Roberts should be on this list. I don't think I don't care about wins. Like you guys said, it doesn't matter. It's have the only time he's ever been able to get the whole way through the playoffs was in the shortened year in 2020. So, if you're not going to succeed at when you're playing the entire year, clearly, because they ran away with that division, that's probably the only reason he's on here. Doesn't make sense to me, obviously. It's definitely should have been the 3 NL East guys. I think Showalter is kind of okay. Yeah, yes, he did some great things and kept them alive when DeGrom was hurt and Scherzer was hurt and Walker was hurt. But again, that's the least he had to do because the expectations were higher than the Statue of Liberty for them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the second year in a row they were supposed to walk away with the damn thing. So, the fact that he couldn't finish the job to me eliminates Buck. So of the 3 nominees, it has to be Snit for again getting your team to overtake the Mets.
And talk about injuries. Thompson lost Bryce hit the MVP of the National League for 2 months, and they stayed where they were.
Harper's not even one of the nominees, right, dude?
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing about Schwarber, you mentioned it. Schwarber is like jacked up on Veritaserum for our Harry Potter fans. Like, he doesn't care, man. He doesn't care. Screw it.
Love it.
Schwarber's my favorite, man.
This has to be the first time that the first 2 nominees were all unanimous in our picks. This has to, actually, it'll be the first 3 because I'm pretty sure NL Cy Young we're going to be unanimous too. So
I think most of these will be fairly unanimous. Maybe there's maybe 2 here that I can see us disagreeing on.
So moving on to the NL Cy Young, we've got Sandy Alcantara, you've got Max Fried, you've got Julio Urias, who was my pick last year and did not win it. Not that I was surprised that he didn't win it last year. Fried had a hell of a year. It's Alcantara's to lose, or Alcantara, excuse me. I always say his name wrong, but it's Alcantara's to lose.
Yeah.
If it's anybody else, that's absolutely insane. So
yeah, it's got to be Alcantara.
Yeah, no disagreement here.
6 complete games, most by any pitcher since Soleil did that in 16, more than any other team had in 22. 14-9 at 2.28 ERA, 228 2/3 innings, 7 or more innings in 13 consecutive starts from May 11th through July 15th, the longest such streak by any pitcher since 2014.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at the fact that he had 6 complete games, and having 1 complete game is a feat enough in this day and age of baseball where everybody is specialized in your 7th, 8th, and 9th inning.
Yeah.
To be that dominant, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Urias and Fried had great seasons. Fried was 14-7, 4,870 strikeouts. Urias was 17 and 766 strikeouts and 216 ERA, which was the NL ERA title, actually. It's still Alcantara. It's his to lose. And that now the AL, it's a little more interesting. Two guys that I think are the leaders, plus the third guy that they have to pick. You've got Dylan Cease, the White Sox, Alek Manoah, who's the guy they had to pick from Toronto. Although I think Manoah will be a viable Cy Young candidate for years to come. It's just not his year this year. And Justin Verlander coming off of Tommy John and just pitching like he was 28 again or something ridiculous like that. So this is one where I can see the run of unanimous picks stopping. So, Joe, since you actually got to see Dylan Cease pitch this year, what are your thoughts on the AL Cy Young?
Well, I mean, first off, what I like about him is that he's Mark Burley-esque when it comes to efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
You want to speed up the game of baseball, make Dylan Cease's routine the routine for everybody.
Absolutely.
Because that game was, I forget what the score was now, 3-0 or something like that, but it was 2.5 hours, largely because of Dylan Cease. Like, the guy's phenomenal.
And he just pumps the strike zone too. Cease went 14-8, 2.20 ERA, second to Verlander, 227 strikeouts. His season included a record-setting streak of 14 straight starts, allowing no more than one earned run. That went from May 29th to August 11th. That's insane.
Yeah. Is he your pick then, Joe? Is Dylan Cease your pick for Cy Young?
I made that pick at the beginning of the year. I'm staying with it, man. I love me some Dylan Cease. That mustache is amazing.
One of the best mustaches in baseball, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And honestly, I think, had he had a better manager that wasn't telling guys to not run stuff out, they might have actually scored some runs. They might have made some better fielding plays. And this is a slam dunk across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm staying with him.
We are going to have our first non-unanimous choice because I'm going to take Justin Verlander in this one. It's going to be closer based off of his numbers alone. I have to go with Verlander in this one. He's also going to win AL Comeback Player of the Year, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Verlander picked up 18 wins. He had a 1.75 ERA, 185 strikeouts. Yeah, I wish it was Cease. I think it's going to be Verlander.
I feel the same way. I would have preferred Dylan Cease, but I gotta go with Verlander as the pick.
You can't argue with those numbers. You notice though that the two best mustaches in baseball both struck out 200 plus batters. Might be something to that. All right, AL Rookie of the Year. You've got Stephen Kwan of the Guardians. You've got Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. You've got Adley Rutschman of Baltimore. I think this is still going to be unanimous to J-Rod from all three of us because he came up right away. And, yeah, he had a rough first month, but then he caught fire and never looked back. So, and Rutschman he didn't come up to mid-May, if I remember right, or later in May. So I think you have to give it to J-Rod.
Any other year, this would be Adley Rutschman's.
Yeah.
Any other year. But no, it's Julio. Just, yeah.
Also, Julio, thank you for the boost to my champion fantasy baseball team. And Joe, are you going to hop back on the unanimous train?
Yeah, I'll stick with Julio. I think, like you said, Jason, any other year, this is probably Adley's to win or to lose, rather. I do wonder if Pena should have been on here instead of Kwan. I mean, yeah. I don't know if it was just because – I mean, my main exposure to him obviously was the playoffs, but, good enough to win a Gold Glove. probably good enough to be on this list.
Quan did too, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So Quan got a Gold Glove. He hit 298, 6 homers, 19 stolen base, more walks than strikeouts, 62-60.
Yeah,
It's real
that's a
hard to
close
argue
one. It could have easily been flip flop those two for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been upset either way. All right, now the National League. So you've got the guy who doesn't matter, Brendan Donovan of the Cardinals, and then you've got what should be, I think, co-rookies of the year, and Michael Harris and Spencer Strider of the Braves. Do you guys want me to go first, or do you guys want to roll with it first? All right. So I really do think it should be co-rookies of the year. If I have to pick one, I'm going to lean towards Harris. I tend to lean towards the everyday player. I know Strider started the year on the major league roster, started in the bullpen, moved to the starting rotation, and just blew people away despite being basically a 2-pitch pitcher, which is ridiculous. But Michael Harris had a massive impact on that team defensively. He sparked that offense when he came up. And Michael Harris, he ended the year. Give me a second. I have it right here. Michael Harris's line for the year: 297, 19 homers, 20 stolen bases, a 135 OPS plus, and he led all NL rookies with 5.3 WAR. And again, he came up at the end of May and he picked up 5.3 WAR. That's why, if they can't make it co-rookies of the year, I think it should be Harris instead of Strider, despite the absolutely insane season Spencer Strider had as well. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going back and forth between those two. Obviously I'm not going to pick a Cardinal. Let's be honest here. As the meme from Fly the Dub said, I changed my clock an hour back, and the Cardinals still suck. So,
I love that meme.
that was awesome, man. I mean, based on the offensive numbers alone, it's probably Harris's to lose. They don't normally go with the pitcher, I wouldn't think. So yeah, let's go with Harris on this one.
All right, Jason.
So we are going to be unanimous again. I am also going with Michael Harris for that reason, being the everyday player. And while Strider did pitch well in the bullpen and dominate as a starter, I think the fact that he started in the bullpen and then came out to be a starter hurts his case a little bit, because he didn't get more of those numbers up as far as like the strikeouts and the innings pitched, things like that. And Harris was the complete package for the Braves. I know we had talked about before with these two being so close that you might see a split, and Donovan and whoever the third one was going to be potentially sneaks through. Because it's Donovan, I don't think we're going to see that. No. I think all of the first and second place votes, for the most part, are going to go to Harris and Strider. So I don't think Donovan will have enough of those auxiliary votes to sneak his way in. So, I'm gonna go with Harris on that one.
And the crazy thing is, Strider still had a great year if we're looking at WAR too. He still put up 3.7 WAR despite not being a closer all season, or not being a starter all season. But I just can't, get over the fact that you have an everyday player who, despite playing 2 months less than a full season, put up 5.3 WAR, played a phenomenal defense, and almost went 2020 in his rookie year. I'm sorry. I think it should be Harris. All right. So moving on to the NL MVP, your nominees, and this is another case where we might have split in a sneak, actually. You've got Paul Goldschmidt of the Cardinals, you have Nolan Arenado of the Cardinals, and you have Manny Machado of the Padres. All right. Oh, boy. Joe, this has got to hurt, man. 2 Cardinals in the MVP finals.
So I think we know who Joe's going to take in this one.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm back and forth with this one. I think, to me, it's tough because Arenado had such a good offensive year too. that it takes away from that vote a little bit for Goldie. And Machado, this is the one where Machado could slip in, I think. But particularly when you look at Machado, you look at the fact that Tatis missed pretty much the entire year, and they still found a way to get to the playoffs and beat the Dodgers. Obviously, the postseason doesn't matter, but because of their sheer dominance during the regular season, I'm going to go with Goldschmidt.
All right.
I'm sticking with him.
Jason?
I said Goldschmidt earlier. I think I'm going to stick with Goldschmidt. He faded a little bit at the end of the year, but kind of like what we said and what I really pushed last year was not one series or one month does an MVP award make. It's about who helps carry their team, and Goldschmidt did that. The only thing that I can see here, and I would not be surprised, is if he and Arenado do split votes. Manny Machado took that Padres team to the next level, especially with everything that went on with Fernando Tatis Jr. So I think if we do sit back and look at most valuable player to their team for the season, I may give it to Machado. So you know what? I'm going to change, and I'm not going to take Goldie. I'm going to take Machado for that sole reason. Most valuable player to their team. Goldschmidt and Arenado had each other and the team around them. They had Pujols, they had Yachty, things like that. Mm-hmm. Manny Machado had to deal with the absence of a superstar, and while he's a superstar himself, he helped take that team to the next level. Manny Machado.
So let's look at some numbers here. Goldschmidt, 317, 35 homers, 115 RBIs, led the NL in slugging at 578 and OPS at 981. Manny Machado, 298, 32 homers, 102 RBIs. He led the NL in WAR at 7.4. Arenado had 7.3. Goldschmidt and Freddie Freeman had 7.1. I think it's... Here's the thing. I was all on board with Goldschmidt for a long time with the Triple Crown chase, but he did not get the Triple Crown. Schwarber saw to that, and several other guys actually as well saw to that. I think I'm going to go with Jason. I think I'm going to go Machado. I think there might be enough votes splitting because Arenado had a good season as well. Enough votes might get split between the two of them that I could see Machado. And, these voters, they love to look at those advanced metrics more and everything else. I could absolutely see that being enough to slip Machado through and take this one. I won't be surprised if it's Goldschmidt, though. All right. And then lastly, the AL MVP. So we have, in this one, please, Yordan Alvarez, Aaron Judge, and Shohei Ohtani. And like I said, whenever we were looking at these last, Shohei Ohtani has a much better case to be MVP this year than he did last year when he beat Vlad. Frankly, if Aaron Judge hadn't finally beaten the AL home run record, because apparently home runners don't go to the American League ever because the NL shattered Maris's record I don't know how many times now. It's Aaron Judge. Let's face it. It's going to be Aaron Judge. But Shohei makes a much better case this year than he did last year when he won. And he shouldn't have. Sorry, I'm still slightly bitter about that. All right, Joe. Are you going to roll with the Aaron Judge train like we've been doing all year?
Yeah, I don't have to me, the biggest difference between Shohei and Judge is the Yankees made the playoffs. And the Yankees don't make the playoffs without Aaron Judge. So this is a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. And looking at these, I think if the Angels had a better season, you're looking at Shohei being up there. And I know it's, when we're like, without him, they're definitely not as good as they could have been. but the Yankees don't win that division without Aaron Judge. They may make the playoffs just because you have some of the other American League teams that probably don't catch them still. But thinking back to even Jordan's numbers, if this includes a postseason, it's Jordan, because he absolutely was the most valuable player for I know Pena won the World Series MVP. Without Jordan Alvarez, I don't think the Astros get past the Mariners. He single-handedly won them 2 games. But it's not a postseason award. No. So I'm going to go with the just missed the AL Triple Crown, Aaron Judge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at the fact that they, almost felt like they almost backed into the playoffs the way that they played toward the end, and without Aaron Judge, it just doesn't. They're in a wild card or worse.
Well, let's face it. If it weren't for Aaron Judge, I don't think they even make the playoffs. That man single-handedly carried 1,000 pounds of deadweight teammates for the last 3 months of that season when that lineup, outside of Benintendi before he got hurt, decided, oh, we don't need to hit anymore. We have Aaron Judge. Because that's really what it looked like.
Because let's think about this, who you had here. You have the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Rays. You had the Guardians who won the division. You have the Astros who won the division. So basically you're talking Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, and Mariners. So I'm curious, who do you think gets it? So assume we bump everybody in the AL East up 1. So you have, I guess it was the Blue Jays. Yeah, the Blue Jays that would win the division then. So Blue Jays as the division winner, Rays as a wild card, Mariners as a wild card. Who gets that third wild card spot? I'm just curious.
Third wild card spot based on standings would have been Baltimore. And then below Baltimore was the White Sox, but I don't think the White Sox would have had enough to pass that.
So without Aaron Judge, I don't know that the Orioles catch the Yankees.
They were only 3 games back in that last wild card spot. And Tampa Bay was falling apart at the end of the year. Let's remember that too. Toronto got hot, Seattle got hot, Tampa Bay fell apart. So what might have actually happened was either the Yankees would have kept Tampa Bay's spot, or Baltimore, if they would have played slightly better, would have potentially snuck.
Yeah.
I could have seen that either way.
Yeah, but either way, it's still Aaron Judge.
Yeah. I don't think there's much argument there. All right, guys. So, what a season! What a season that was. I talk about roller coaster of emotion from start to finish.
Yeah.
2 years in a row that one of our teams makes the World Series. Let's see if we can keep that streak going next year. I don't care which of the 3 teams it is, to be honest.
I care.
Well, of course we all care, but we don't care.
Would I be upset if it's Joe's Cubs? Absolutely not. Would I be upset if it's your Braves? Probably.
Yeah, I know you will. Yeah, we know you will. But anyway, it's been a hell of a year. My friend Damien, who lives up in Massachusetts, the poem he always likes to post once his Red Sox get eliminated every year. It breaks your heart. It is designed to break your heart. The game begins in the spring when everything else begins again, and it blossoms in the summer, filling the afternoon and evenings. And then as soon as the chill rains come, it stops and leaves you to face the fall alone. You count on it, rely on it to buffer the passage of time, to keep the memory of sunshine and high skies alive. And then just when the days are all twilight, when you need it the most, it stops. Today, November 6th, 2022, a cold Sunday, it stopped. Well, it wasn't cold this year for us. It stopped and summer was gone. It's beautiful way. He always does it every year once the Red Sox are eliminated.
So he did that in like June this year.
Well, I'm sorry, not when they're eliminated. He does it when their season ends. I'm sorry, not eliminated.
So he did it back in June.
Kind of felt like it. Not the best year for Boston.
Yeah. Now I think we'll still have another show yet though before we. Yes, Ronnie.
So,
but we'll have another show yet, I believe, before we take our off-season free agency break.
My thoughts we're gonna probably have one show in 2 weeks once all the awards are finally announced. Like I said, we didn't do the MLBPA awards tonight. We'll probably have one like 2-ish weeks for that, plus the Baseball Writers Awards as well. We probably have maybe one in December just to wrap the year, and then we'll see you guys back in the new year. And I don't know if we might do kind of what we did last year, maybe go week by week, one division at a time, and just run through all the teams. I kind of liked that actually, and it'll be nice to have actual transactions going on instead of waiting on the damn lockout to end like this year. So yeah, so we'll probably see you one or two more times, hopefully two more times, I think, for the year. Once in December, once more in November. And then, crazy that we are closing out the second season of the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. It is an absolute delight to do this with you guys. I'm my buddy Tony, he's the one in charge of Dark Arrow podcast, and was like, "You've always wanted to do this. Why don't you do this?" So, Tony, I think I said this last year. I'm going to say it again. Thank you for giving me the push to finally go out and do this. And, I've said it before to him, and I'll say it again to him. Thank you to Big Jim years ago for getting me back into podcasting and looking at sports stuff with the Big Jim podcast back when it was still Big Jim Sports and not Huddle Up like it is now.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I remember, Andrew, you and I had been talking about doing one of these for a little while. Like I remember because you and I would guest appear on Jim's shows, and I would always go on, right before the baseball season started, try to preview it. And we got to do that again this year. And then I remember you approached me like, "Hey, I'm thinking about this. What are you thinking? Would you like to do this?" And I was immediately like, yes, because, it's hard to find. Baseball's not as popular of a sport as it used to be. So finding people to just really talk baseball is very hard right now. Yeah. And then I know we were like, well, who else can we get in? And we're like, what about Joe? Because Joe's a big Cubs fan. And having like 3 divisional people doing a podcast together, that would just be nuts.
That's putting 3 alley cats in a burlap sack and seeing what happens.
And I remember, Joe, when Andrew reached out to me and it was like, well, let's talk to Joe because he loved with the Cubs and everything. It's an amazing perspective. So I love doing this with you boys. So yeah. I can't believe we're already 2 years in.
It's nuts, isn't it? So 2 down, hopefully many, 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 many more years to come. And so good way to wrap season 2. Although I think I'll probably keep I think I'll keep the next 2 episodes as part of season 2 for the purposes of Spotify and where they have things laid out. That'll be season 2. And then next year we will start season 3 once 2023 rolls around. 2023, that's crazy to even think about. Joe, do you guys have anything more to say tonight?
No, not really. I mean, it's fun to talk baseball once a week with you guys, and it's sort of helped me like pay more attention to it than I did in recent years. So I really like that, and you're getting close here, Jason. I'm almost rooting for the Phillies when the Cubs aren't on. So
my plan is working.
So when the Cubs aren't on, obviously.
Well, and the nice thing about this is too, I always watch the Braves, always have. But now, and especially thanks to having a T-Mobile and getting a free MLB TV subscription, I watch so much more baseball than I ever used to. One, because it's more readily available, but it's just so much fun to be able to watch all of these games. And it's like, oh, wait a second, we're gonna have to deal with this guy soon. Ah, crap. And realize all of the other, intricacies of, wait a second, how do the Marlins do this every year?
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say as a Cub fan is Jed and Hoyer and Tom Ricketts, get your checkbooks out. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now is not the time to be sitting back, spend some money.
Yeah, Rodon and Bogarts. Let's go. Let's do it.
Oof. I guess you are becoming a Phillies fan, Joe, if you're talking about future Phillies.
Yeah, I did see
just like David Robertson. Let me use them first.
You can have them back.
Let me get all the good out of him. You get what's left.
That's all right. He's already a free agent, so they're not going to be bringing him back. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, we've known for years the Phillies are always all in on the sloppy second, so it wouldn't surprise me if he.
No, the Cubs had the sloppy seconds this time around with David Robertson. The Phillies like had the first plate and were like, "Oh, look, it broke."
He didn't pitch enough to say, "Oh, it broke."
He had 6 innings.
6 innings. Yeah, okay. No. The Cubs had the creme de la creme. The Phillies got the sloppy seconds with Roberts. Come on. Robertson, excuse me.
Phillies opened the pickle jar for the Cubs.
I'm looking for the next pitcher I can say trade value up and Dombrowski go and gets him. So
I will say, Joe, while I still don't like him, he did pitch better than I thought he would. I will still not apologize to him because he absolutely shit the bed in the postseason. But I was surprised that they got what they did from him. That's as close as you'll hear me get to apologize to David Robertson because it will never happen.
I was not surprised. Let's just be honest.
Was anybody?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So you can find the audio recordings on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. You can see us live on the YouTube channel, Facebook Live, and on Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on the Facebook page at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer and on our Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe is at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC, and we are sponsored by Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. Johnny, I'll see you next week, bud. My hair is badly in need of a trim. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night, everyone.